It's a 5-game Friday night here in the Ultimate Frisbee Association, and we welcome you to Friday Night Frisbee, the Pabst Light pregame show, the old standby East Division showdown, the New York Empire and the DC Breeze. For years, these two teams have been at the top of the East Division, but different circumstances tonight. Two teams middling around 500, both coming off losses in Canada last weekend, and both desperately looking for a win. A huge weekend of Ultimate is set to begin here in the association, and look, this DC Breeze team has had an interesting past year after what transpired at championship weekend. They finally got to the Final Four, and then they saw their dreams go up in smoke. In the Breeze, the very, very stiff Breeze in Salt Lake City, the New York Empire, 3 times champs in this league, and still believing that they can find a way to a championship in 2025, but they're going to have to turn it around quick. We can welcome you into our broadcast booth of the Pabst Light pregame show. Evan Lepler alongside Charlie Eisenhood. Get to hang out with Charlie for the second straight Friday night. We saw a great one last week in Minnesota, and here in D.C., the Empire and the Breeze. There's something cool about just seeing the jerseys warming up side by side on the field.
This is maybe the iconic rivalry in the league. And I mean, you can look at every division and find a great rivalry matchup, but the quality of these two teams over the last 5 years, I mean, there's been multiple seasons, I think, where D.C. has not made it to championship weekend despite being the second best team in the league. And that's just how good the Empire have been. But D.C. really flipped the script on New York last year. Both teams have regressed a little bit towards the mean in the East, and that means that we have the most interesting June matchup between these two teams that we've ever had. Losing tonight puts you on a really tough path to the playoffs.
From a roster standpoint, Charlie, both of these teams have a lot of the same faces that have led them to greatness. We see Andrew Roy and Jasper Tom and Jacques Nissen, and but there are also key faces gone. And it's a combination of these two teams weakening a little bit and everybody else raising their standard, I think, that has made the East Division the most fascinating division in the history of the Ultimate Frisbee Association.
Yeah, I mean, DC sitting at 3-3, New York sitting at
standings, East standings.
Here, really just Boston that kind of has avoided the fray. And what's really interesting is that both these teams this week and really throughout the season have talked about how confident they are in getting back to the level of play that they have set as a standard the past couple of seasons. The thing is, they just haven't figured it out yet. Sometimes 1 or 2 pieces missing from your offensive line can kind of upset the apple cart, even though it feels like you have the same general personnel out there. When you lose a player like a Johnny Malks, or you have to put Jack Williams in the backfield instead of letting him be starting downfield, those things can just cause a little bit of problems here and there, a little bit more turnovers, and the rest of the teams are better positioned to take advantage of that.
Well, New York finishing their warm-ups, Thomas Edmonds and Tyler Monroe. That's not a great sign for the Breeze. Let's talk about the New York offense, because Jack Williams has had an interesting season, tweaked his hamstring right before the Boston game, did not play in either of their overtime losses. They lost in single overtime at Boston. They lost in double OT the next day. This is a stretch where the Empire have lost 3 out of 4. Jack did return to the field against Toronto, but he was only activated after Sam Jonas got hurt in warm-ups. And to add even more adversity for the Empire to try and deal with tonight, Calvin Brown, who has taken on such a big load handling for the Empire, got hurt in Wednesday's practice. He is out tonight as well. Jack is back, but John Randolph is another guy who's going to be important for New York on offense. They've switched him over, and look, they're still figuring out what's the best version of themselves.
I don't think they know. I think that they are all trying to determine what is our offense going to look like down the stretch. Both of these teams still very confident that they're going to make the playoffs. And, for New York, this is their last road game. They get to go home and play.
Give me Jack. Just Jack, yeah. Someone warming up, someone doing something.
That's huge. I think the question is really, how will Williams be able to handle against this DC lineup when we
lose it?
I'm fascinated. He's a little tweaky still. He said he's feeling good enough. He was going to play on defense. Instead, he's going to play O tonight because Calvin's out. So this is a fascinating game. I think it's really difficult to predict what's going to happen here. New York maybe has the edge in the statistical categories, but what does that mean? When you take the Vegas game out of the mix, they feel very even.
One of the storylines certainly last week in the UFA was the impact of college kids coming into the league. We certainly saw Colorado get as big of a boost as anybody. Ethan Lehman made his Empire debut in Toronto. He's back in the lineup, young defender out of UMass. But the DC Breeze get former Callahan winner Aiden Downey in their lineup tonight for the first time. He's played in the UFA before with the Hustle. This is his Breeze debut, and it feels like they're kind of handing him the car keys to the D-line immediately.
I mean, he has been a A1 player on his team throughout his entire career. He was the best player on his high school team. He was the best player on his college team for multiple seasons. He won the Callahan Award. And he's going to come out and basically be asked to deliver breaks for their D-line. And he's barely played with the team so far. It's kind of a big spot, and how he plays could determine this game. It's kind of crazy to say, but they're missing so many of their normal pieces on defense tonight. You know, they're activating a couple of guys for the very first time. Micah Wagner, Kobe Liveranis they're going to take the field for the first time. Young players, very, very young D-line for DC tonight.
Well, Thomas Edmonds was kind of the anchor for that DC D-line in the past. They've moved him over to offense to kind of fill the gap that Johnny Maltz left a little bit. And this is a Breeze team that is also still searching for their identity in many ways. Now, it is not particularly windy right now. There is a decent chance that we could get a thunderstorm around 8:30, about an hour and a half from now. So that'll be interesting to see if the wind picks up and how the Breeze handled it. They probably played their best game of the season in the wind at Toronto last Friday night in a one-goal win. They got the one win up in Canada before losing at Montreal the next day. But, yeah, I mean, these two teams, Charlie, they're going to see each other 8 days from now up in New York. And, I mean, does your mind think that this is going to be a split these next 2 weeks? Or is one team going to be almost eliminated by losing both of these games and losing the tiebreaker and falling even further into the massive mess of the East?
I will say, coming into tonight, not having seen these teams face off yet this season, I do think a split is the most likely outcome. I think that we see home wins for both teams, but there's so much motivation for each of these teams to win this one tonight because of where they are in the standings and how critical it's going to be. I think what makes it fun is that we just don't know. And normally when these teams play in June, then we're just talking about playoff positioning. Who's going to get the 1 seed? Maybe that's not even in the conversation. It sort of just feels like a test match to see where they are against each other. But tonight, I mean, you lose here and now you're worried.
Historically, these two franchises have met in some of the biggest games in the history of the league. Yacht on his 30th birthday, catching the buzzer beater from Williams. Not as close of a game in 2023. The Empire played one of the most pristine offensive games in the history of the league. But things changed last year. DC won both regular season matchups in 2024.
Yeah, it's been all sweeps so far. Will we see it again here in 2025? DC coming into New York's house at the end of the season, forcing New York to go on the road for the playoffs, and New York not getting through. DC ends up coming out as we take a look at Ben Yacht's numbers this year. And he's been as good as he's ever been. I mean, he leads the team in plus-minus, plus 45. You can see the stats, 29 goals, 13 assists, a great defensive player. And really has kind of been holding their O-line together while they've gone through a lot of iterations of what the rest of the offense looks like.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Yacht and what he's done throughout the season for New York. I mean, he's made big plays, and he's been a stabilizing presence. He's number 1 in the league in goals right now.
Yeah, and you can see why. I mean, this isn't specifically a goal, but it might as well be. Taking on the double team, not a problem, and such a great thrower, too. I mean, he's really expanded his game. And he's played on the D-line for this team and dominated. And even at end-of-quarter situations. Usually he's climbing the ladder to make that play, but he saw the only opportunity there was to play off the backside, and gets the score in a critical goal against Philly.
The interesting question is who's going to step up around him downfield. For DC, Jacques Nissen is the anchor of their offense, the college champion with Brown. I mean, it was 6 years ago, basically last month, that he turned 18, made his debut a week after he turned 18. Now he just turned 24, and he is the anchor of the offense.
Yeah, he's averaging 575 yards a game. No more Johnny Malks here to share the load with him. It's kind of on his shoulders. And he's got a great cutting cord downfield. And his ability to find spots all over the field and open up space with his legs, like he can get up the line and get you a goal. He's not just somebody who's going to stand back there and deliver throws downfield. And that dynamic offense that he's able to play is why this DC O-line still crackles with potential, even if they haven't quite reached it this season.
It's a massive 13-game weekend here in the Ultimate Frisbee Association. That's about 5 minutes away from getting underway. Charlie, you were thinking tiebreakers already. There's a lot of Frisbee still to play, but here are the simple yes-nos right now. Tiebreakers could be very important in the East Division.
Yeah, and this is the problem for DC. You see that they are currently not holding the tiebreaker against 3 of the other teams in the East. And, of course, if they lose tonight to New York, then it's really tough sledding. And we could end up seeing a bunch of teams at the same record. You got to think about these tiebreakers now. That's what makes winning this series and not just getting the split so crucial for both teams.
Well, we got Philly in Montreal tonight. They're at Boston tomorrow. You also have Toronto hosting Montreal tomorrow. Later tonight on WatchUFA.tv, battle for first place in the West Division, Salt Lake at Oakland. It is going to be a really fascinating weekend here in the Ultimate Frisbee Association, and we are excited to get it rolling with the first meeting of the season between the New York Empire and the DC Breeze. These two iconic programs, both desperate for a win after losses last weekend north of the border. That will wrap up our Pabst Light pregame show. Earlier today, we had a chance to catch up with Miles Grovic, the standout defender for the Breeze, and Rowan McDonnell, the longtime veteran for DC. And look, we heard from Rowan, Charlie, that this DC team, still feels like they're figuring out who they are, but they still have confidence that they can push the right buttons when they need to.
And why not? I mean, the talent on these rosters is clear enough. They've got the defenders. They've got the offensive players. The big thing tonight, if Calvin Brown wasn't out, New York would basically have their healthiest roster of the season. With him out, that obviously makes it big questions about their offense tonight. But DC on the other side, just missing so many pieces. They're going to need some of these new and younger players to step up for their defensive line if they want to have a chance to beat a New York offense that has been better than DC's so far this season.
All right, that'll do it for the Pabst Light pregame show. The 35th all-time meeting between the Empire and the Breeze is coming up in just a few minutes here from Carlini Field in our nation's capital as we launch this 13-game weekend here in the Ultimate Frisbee Association. Quick timeout, and then we will be back to start the show. New York and DC. There's nothing like it in the UFA. like a pro with a new Pro Ultimate Frisbee. Created with input from the sport's premier passers, the Pro Frisbee is specially designed to fly through the wind and maintain its edge. Experience the official Frisbee of the UFA and get yours at shopufa.com today. Historically, the New York Empire and DC Breeze have been among the very best and most consistent UFA franchises, almost always on the short list of top championship contenders. But this season has been more unpredictable than ever, with weekly surprises creating a world where these two premier programs have been forced to dig even deeper. Tonight, the New York-DC rivalry takes center stage again, with both teams desperately needing a win to remain in position for the East Division playoffs. So settle in for another must-see meeting between the Empire and the Breeze on Friday Night Frisbee.
Now, fans, it's time to introduce the players for both teams.
Historically,
First up, we'll meet the visiting New York Empire.
Well, the DC Breeze, after a loss in Montreal last Saturday, returned to Carlini Field. The New York Empire lost at Toronto on Sunday. And now New York is looking for a road win. It's the final road game of the season for the Empire. And the DC Breeze are trying to find their form. These two teams currently third and fourth in the East Division race.
Number 24, Jacob Cohen.
Carlini Field is the site. Thunderstorms potentially in the forecast, but we're dry right now. We are almost ready for some Frisbee as we launch Week 7 in the Ultimate Frisbee Association. Evan Lepler, delighted to be back alongside the editor and czar of Ultiworld, Charlie Eisenhood. I reached out to Jacques Nissen and John Randolph, the old Brown teammates who are on opposite sides of this rivalry. Jacques said that this is going to be the highest stakes New York DC game ever. John Randolph compared New York to a cornered animal, saying that's when they're the most dangerous. What do you expect tonight?
I mean, we have seen these teams face off in huge playoff games. Never have they met in the regular season with the stakes this high. Both teams know if they lose tonight, they simply may not even get a chance to find their final form because they won't make the playoffs. They're already sitting, New York, outside of playoff position. So just a massive game, massive stakes, and I think both teams know that they have more to give, and they're going to have to give it tonight.
Well, New York is not at full strength. They do not have Calvin Brown tonight, and that forces Jack Williams, who was going to play D, to play O, and John Randolph is now playing O. So Marquez Brownlee has a lot on his shoulders leading the D-line, the veteran who's going to set the UFA all-time pulls record tonight, most likely. He is going to be absolutely critical if New York's going to get breaks and win this game.
Yeah, and he's ready for the moment. Got selected to the World Games team this year for Team USA. He's going to be playing with them in China in August. And you know, he's been a great defender and a great puller for a long time. He has added so much offensively. He's averaging 2 assists per game, playing almost exclusively D points. We know that he has the capacity to, when they step up, he'll go out and get a block, and then he'll turn around and he'll come up with big throws. He can send it down the field at the end of a quarter. He can hit something with a little inside pass into the end zone. He's just become a fantastic playmaker for this Empire team.
We chatted with Miles Grovick of the DC Breeze and Rowan McDonnell. Asked him, how would he describe the Breeze this season? Here's Miles.
I would describe the Breeze as hardworking, committed, and fun. It's a good mixture of that, like everyone wants to win and everyone tries really hard, but we still enjoy our time together. I think the style matchup between us and New York tonight will be pretty similar. You know, we've played each other a lot in the past couple of years. I think they'll probably be a little more huck heavy than we will, but that's kind of what we're ready for. I don't know if they're ready for our small ball. Our season has started off all right. We've had great moments and we've had some low moments, and it's just knowing how to grow and how to build off of what we need to. I think we have a pretty good road to championship weekend. We just got to execute on the things we need to execute. I don't really have a prediction for who's going to be in championship weekend. Us and 3 other teams we have to beat.
Yeah, we're 3-3. We're used to winning every game we play, week in, week out. And right now, even our wins, we've only won by maybe one against Toronto twice, and we haven't really put together a complete game. And this is halfway through the season, so we're still trying to figure out ourselves. And we all believe we can, and we will. But yeah, we're 3-3, and we're not going to pretend that everything is going so well. We all want it, the offensive side, defensive side, coaching staff. It doesn't really matter. We all want to contribute and put together something that we're proud of. And you know, we've been working so hard ever since March. We're still just waiting for us to hit that level, which I think will give us confidence to move forward. Tonight's matchup with New York is a classic. It's a staple in the league. DC New York has been a story for a few years now. Even special, it's Youth Ultimate Night. DC does a great job with Youth Ultimate. We have a lot of our team coaching, and we're going to see a really big crowd. It's going to be an incredible atmosphere. And as for what's going to happen, it's 2 teams that probably both want to put a signature win together. We're not the only ones looking for that big win. New York, I think, is like 3-4. So I think we're going to have 2 urgent, scrappy, hungry teams. And, you know, it's probably going to come down to some crazy fourth quarter, maybe overtime.
Great to hear from the DC Breeze. I mean, you could call Rowan McDonald the DC Breeze. He has meant more to this team's identity through his time on the squad, as a leader, as a contributor, as anybody. And he told me that this very well could be his last run in the UFA. It could be his last season. Ben Yacht, a guy who's had a lot of battles against the Breeze. And he certainly wants to try to get this New York team back. The dynasty, they think it may not be done, but it's certainly teetering right now. Let's do our keys to the game here at Carlini Field as they flip the coin and share some laughs. Keys to victory tonight. Charlie Eisenhood, what you got?
Well, DC has had a problem with their deep game, and that's because they keep getting stuck on the sideline. Their offense kind of flows into the sideline. They're unable to get the resets off, and it's caused a lot of turnovers for a team that's not used to them on their O-line. So Coach Lauren Boyle really wants them to keep the disc in the middle tonight, and I think that's going to be critical to their success. For New York, it's really about next man up. They have had all kinds of injury issues, players in and out of the lineup. It looked like they were going to be super healthy tonight, but now Calvin Brown is out with a concussion. So who's going to step up and help this offense run smoothly? They really don't have any time for excuses at this point, sitting at 3-4 and outside the playoff race as it stands.
Well, there's one game underway right now on WatchUFA.tv. Montreal Royale have taken a 2-0 lead on the Philadelphia Phoenix in the opening minutes. So an early break in that East Division battle. Royale still have not lost at home this year, Charlie. They beat New York and they beat D.C. Do you believe in Montreal?
I think any of the teams below Boston could make a run and make the playoffs. Boston clearly the favorite to get the top seed. They've been the best team in the East. They passed the eye test. But everybody else, even Toronto sitting at 1-4, after their win against New York this past weekend, they needed that one. If they lost that game, it's over, shut it down. But with that win, they have hope. They could still make a push, finish maybe 7-5. You could dream about 8-4, and that'll be enough to make the playoffs in the East. I think we could see somebody get in with 5 or 6 losses.
No, there's no doubt about that. With how these teams are going to beat each other up over the course of the rest of the season, I mean, it is a fascinating race right now. And I said this on the Swing Pass podcast with Adam Ruffner. I think Boston might come back to the pack a little bit because they still have 5 road games left.
That's a great
point.
point.
And there's no easy road game in the East Division. I mean, they got to go to Montreal and Toronto back-to-back, and then they finish the season with 3 straight on the road at Philly, at New York, and at D.C., and nothing's going to come easily in this division. So, could they deliver a first-place finish at 9-3 or even 8-4? I think that's possible with how these teams are going to battle each other down the rest of the season.
Well, what's very interesting about Boston is it's not like they've been blowing teams out. I mean, the floor has just come up so much in this East Division. No easy wins at all, especially on the road, and that's what's so big for New York. They get the rest of their season at home after tonight. Can they ride that into maybe even a 2 seed in the East?
Yeah, it's been a historic road trip for the Empire. They've only played 1 game at home of their first 7. And they will have 4 straight at home after this. Yeah, they're the only team in the league that's playing an uneven number of road games. We asked Matt Stevens about that. He said, no, he didn't regret the decision to accept it and set up the schedule the way they did. But now they are in a very tough spot. As I think they're getting ready for a pull just a few minutes from now. Not sure why we haven't started already. They got 5 minutes now on the clock, apparently, so we get more time to hang out. When thunderstorms about an hour and a half away, this is silly.
Yeah, you got to get it going.
Yeah, I don't know what the issue is. We'd love to have them start as soon as they could because they toss the coin and we're ready to go, and we know they are as well. On this 5-game Friday night in the Ultimate Frisbee Association. Coming into the season for the DC Breeze, Charlie, we just saw Andrew Roy warming up. I mean, after winning the 2024 East Division title and taking both meetings against New York, including a 4-goal win, the one season that they didn't finish above 500 in the last 10 years, they went 7-7. So they've been 500 or better every year over the last decade. That's in jeopardy right now, and it's a team that came into the year feeling like one of the favorites.
If you think back to the beginning of the year before we started playing the games and the teams that were come to your mind about who's going to still be the strongest teams, I feel like we're still trying to figure that out. I mean, right now Chicago looks like the best team in the Central, but it's not a guarantee. Clearly right now Boston looks like the best team in the East, but they only beat New York by a goal. They beat DC by 3. And but let's talk about this Breeze team. A picture of consistency. They have been so good for so long. They've been a little overshadowed by this New York team because only one team can emerge to championship weekend, and that's been a lot of heartbreak for DC until this last year. But then they get to championship weekend and they get stunned in the semifinals by the Minnesota Wind Chill, a game people expected them to win easily. So still work to do for this franchise as they want to take home a championship.
Well, the Empire finishing up their pregame chat. The DC Breeze have 7 on the line, including number 7, Tyler Monroe. Out there with Andrew Roy, Cole Jurek, Jacques Nissen, Thomas Edmonds, Rowan McDonald, and I think that's the rookie Kobe Loveranis, who's going to start on offense tonight in his first ever game in the league.
Rising senior at Virginia Tech. He can jump through the roof, and Coach Boyle said they're expecting him to be a finisher for their offensive line tonight. So a big-time debut in the UFA starting on the O-line.
Who's the deep threat on that DC O-line that we see on the line? Do they have one?
Well, they have a lot of hybrid-type players. I mean, we'll see what Loveranis has.
Yeah.
But, I think we've seen that Jurek can open it up, and they maybe don't have quite that same electric, deep-only type threat in the way that maybe Ben Yat is for New York. But they don't necessarily need that. You can still generate a lot of great offense with the small ball system without having somebody who's sort of that natural big 6'5" deep cutter. And if you have a lot of players who are fast enough to create that space, that's really what it comes down to for an offense structured the way they do theirs.
The Ultimate Frisbee Association is proud partners with Victory Insoles, engineered for peak performance, energy, and recovery. The UFA is also proud partners with True Leave, dedicated to enhancing lives through cannabis. And Two Towns Cider House, high quality ingredients, no shortcuts, bringing hard cider back to the people. The Ultimate Frisbee Association is also presented by Pabst Light, America's quality light beer. And Pabst Light proudly presents the opening pull here in Week 7 of Friday Night Frisbee. Marquez Brownlee going to make history tonight. He is 4 pulls away from setting the all-time UFA record for most pulls ever. I'm sure that's a fulfillment of his childhood dream. It's the one thing he really wanted in his life, was to throw the most pulls. He hadn't gotten there yet, but he needs 4 more pulls. Here's 1. We'll keep track of it for you, and off we go. Friday Night Frisbee. DC on offense and New York on defense. And Cole Jurek from Jacques Nissen. It's going to be a familiar combination tonight. Oliver Fay has the Jurek task on the opening point. It's Brownlee on Nissen. Axel Agami Contreras was on Roy. Now he's floating off him, poaching downfield. Thomas Edmonds gets a touch marked by Ben Simmons. Brownlee was just a step off of Nissen. The 35th all-time meeting between these teams. New York has won 20 of the previous 34 matchups. They had won 13 of the previous 14 before last year, when the DC Breeze won both regular season matchups, and there was no postseason showdown like we had seen between these two squads the previous couple of years, because Boston stunned the Empire in the first round on the Jeff Babbitt buzzer beater. Thomas Edmonds to Rowan McDonald, the former MVP of the league. And we get our first whistle. It's a pick, so that's going to cost the Breeze 10 yards. Charlie, DC is known for their small ball. And I asked who the deep threat is, but I don't know if they need a deep threat with the way they want to play. The question is, can New York disrupt that and kind of compel them to take shots deep?
Well, we haven't really said his name yet, but no Christian Boxley tonight for DC. He's their best player and somebody who really stirs the drink for the offense. So they're going to have to try to survive this New York defense without him.
McDonald back to Jurek. Another touch for Cole. Here's Edmonds. Just announced earlier today, Thomas Edmonds will be on Team Canada at the World Games this summer in China. Jacques Nissen has played for Team France in the past. A couple guys with dual citizenship as Andrew Roy finds Cole Jurek. And after a lengthy opening possession, the Breeze convert just over 2 minutes into the first.
That's classic DC offense right there. I mean, just willing to throw a lot of short passes back to the reset over and over. Never really putting themselves in too much of a dangerous spot. Can they keep it up all night long? When they've been able to do this in the past, it just makes it so hard on their opponents, because it feels like you're not getting the break chances with the big deep balls going up. And it makes sense in a way. DC's been a bottom 5 hucking team this season.
25 passes on that possession, Charlie. And the Breeze convert and get their D-line on the field. Excellent pull forces the Empire to start deep in their own end zone. And no Calvin Brown tonight. And what looked like a normal play at Wednesday night's practice turned out to be a concussion. And Calvin, we hope you're doing okay if you're out there watching or listening. Oh no, this is the last thing the Empire need. Oliver Chartok grabs at his left hamstring. The opening point of the night for the Empire. Empire athletic trainer Ryan Anderson has been a busy man this season. Seemingly every game every practice someone else has something go wrong.
It could be just a cramp, but the way that he was hurt as he jumped off that leg, that's a classic hamstring strain situation, and he may not be able to continue tonight, and that is terrible news for the Empire, as Coach Matt Stevens is calling the replacement right now.
Wonder if
like
Matt's
coming in.
Wonder if Matt brought his cleats.
Yeah, seriously.
Axel Agami Contreras will take his spot.
I was talking to Jack Williams before the game. He said it's 25 degrees warmer tonight than any game they've played in this season.
Wow.
It's balmy here in the nation's capital.
It is.
And you can see frustration on Chartalk's face because he's first 0 point of the game.
I mean, it's like every single Empire practice, someone else is going down. Right before the Boston game, it was Jack Williams and Antoine Davis. Before the first Montreal game, Drew Schnaudegel broke his finger. John Randolph started the season on D-line. Now he's playing O. Everett Shapiro, the import from L.A., floats it to Agami Contreras. And looking to a tight window in the end zone. It's Yacht trying to greatest it back in. It's incomplete.
I was just getting ready to say how great those two break throws were, but the second one into the end zone, a little too wide.
Near the sideline, Aiden Downey's first throw as a member of the Breeze, sending Miles Grovic into the end zone. 2-0. Welcome to DC, Aiden Downey.
Aiden Downey, he doesn't need much practice to get it going. Steps up, catches an under pressure, looks downfield, there's Grovic. Dime ball. DC with a big opening statement in this critical game. Downey just coming on the under.
His first
his
practice,
eyes on the line, and then
first practice with the Breeze was Wednesday night. Went to laser tag with a bunch of the guys on Thursday night. That's all it takes to find a chemistry.
And he is the kind of player that is good enough to just step in and take the tough shots right away for this D-line offense. You know, it's not like on O-line where you need to be a little more careful. Maybe you don't take that shot. It did hang a little bit, but it was right where it needed to be. Defender had no chance. Grovic hauls it in. So now New York, no Chartalk. How will this O-line handle the loss of two starters now with Brown out and Chartalk maybe with a hamstring strain?
It's Williams, Rushmeyer, Bailey with Yacht, Labar, Randolph, Shapiro, and Cowan. And a floater brought in by Labar, bumped on the way there by DC's Micah Wagner. Here's Randolph, picked up by Downey. We've seen Yacht have some big games in this rivalry, but losing Chartalk probably puts even more of a burden on Yacht's downfield shoulders, doesn't it?
Certainly.
Shapiro overshoots Labar, and on the second effort, he can't make the play.
Are they getting a little greedy in the red zone? I mean, they've been one of the best red zone teams in the league. Just a little too casual.
Micah Wagner, another Breeze newcomer there defensively. Ooh, nearly a Callahan there for Cowan. Here's Kevin Healy. He got banged up for the Breeze last weekend. Downfield, ripped down by Wagner. Micah Wagner, youngster out of Tulane, originally from the DC area, grew up in Bethesda, Maryland. Reese Bergeron hasn't played a ton this year, but he's had some big moments in big games through the years. Hammer testing Yacht, and it's a learning moment for Marcus Lee. His first ever home game with the Breeze. He made his debut last week up in Canada.
Seeing some big eyes in the red zone for both teams.
We got a New York timeout, and Jack Randolph spikes the disc in frustration. Not sure Jack wanted that timeout.
Yeah, Williams very frustrated.
We're midway through the first quarter, Charlie, and New York has not scored. And it's been a strange start to the 35th ever meeting between these two proud programs.
And you see Shapiro just kind of falling backwards as he's stepping back, leans back, sends that disc into the air and too high. But then Marcus Lee testing the wrong guy. And there was some space back there, but you got to put a little more juice on it. And do you really want to test Yacht in the air? But now you burn an early timeout with your O-line on the field.
Yeah.
Because you're so out of sorts.
With the disc in the hands of your best player, arguably.
Yes. I mean, in a way, I understand it. They're trying to settle down. They're saying, listen, just you don't have to force it when we get to the red zone, but we might look back on this late in this first half.
Well, one thing about this Empire team without Calvin Brown, I mean, Calvin has been their team leader in deep shots by a ton. And neither Jack Williams nor Solomon Rushmeyer-Bailey have a propensity for launching long that often. And DC certainly knows that.
Yeah, when we saw that duo in the backfield way back in game 1 of the season for the Empire against the Oakland Spiders, they really struggled with the deep shots because that's just not their game.
There was a disconnect between the handlers and the cutters in that early game. Adding John Randolph to the offense has helped a lot. And in these situations, Randolph is diabolically good. He'll drop the coin into the slot for Yacht, and the UFA's 2025 goals leader has his 30th of the year as New York scores with 5:25 to go in the first.
Obviously critical to put that score on the board and kind of settle down. And I think the New York O-line can go over to the sideline and say, look, we're doing fine. We're getting down the field. We just had a couple of mistakes in the red zone. Let's just stay patient, and we're going to be just fine. And I think, if they can keep that same smooth flow going, they can start to put those holds on the board with more consistency. Nice find there from Randolph.
By the way, up in Montreal right now, the Royale took a 3-0 lead. Philly has responded, and the Phoenix just took their first lead, 6-5 late in the first. You can watch that game with a WatchUFA.tv subscription. It is worth the price, I promise. 13 games this weekend, including this Friday night Frisbee Showcase. DC and New York. They'll play again next Saturday up in the Empire State. Rowan McDonald shoots it. Jeff Wodach is in the end zone.
Blown coverage for New York. Wodach was wide open in the deep space, and he's been doing that a long time.
Today's his 97th game in the league. He's 38 years old, and he's still really fast, and he's still really smart, and he's still really reliable. And Rowan can still sling it.
Yeah, I mean, if you put Rowan ISO'd in space and he has no mark, and he's just stepping and turning and seeing Wodach with no one within 10 yards, he's going to hit that shot literally every time.
Rowan tossed his 300th career assist earlier this year, the 15th in the history of the league to do that. That was number 309 for the former MVP. A.J. Merriman will launch the pull for the Breeze. Skips it across the sideline, and that's where Jack Williams will pick it up. Ben Greenberg and Miles Grovic. Miles Grovic, 5 blocks against Toronto last Friday night, Charlie. I mean, he's a guy that's battled some injuries, but when he's out there healthy enough to play, he's a dynamic young defender for this DC squad. Randolph sending Yacht. Chased from behind, and Yacht wins the battle against Lee, and then throws the assist to Shapiro.
It's a great Huck inflow to your best downfield receiver and one of the best in this league. Multi-time MVP. And he gets a lot of assists in spots like this where he catches it right on the doorstep. A great throw from Randolph, puts it out into space. Yacht able to easily box out the smaller defender. And then he is really good at taking advantage of those transition spots and getting the disc into the end zone before the defense has time to get set.
So Randolph gets credit for the yards and the hockey assist. Ben Yacht involved in both of New York's scores. DC up a break. 4 minutes remaining in this opening quarter. Edmonds had Jurek in the deep space, but holstered. I mean, you look at this handler grouping for the DC Breeze. Edmonds, Nissen, and Roy. Those are 3 rocks in the backfield. I mean, 3 guys that you could lean upon for 75, 100 touches in a game if you needed. And we've seen them do that. Edmonds being chased by Sam Alston. Here's McDonald looking deep. Kobe Laveranis has his first score in the Ultimate Frisbee Association.
Did you ask about a deep threat in the open, Evan? Laveranis has been a really strong player in the Atlantic Coast this past college season. And I think it shows you what kind of confidence this coaching staff has in his abilities to put him on the O-line for his UFA debut. And just takes Alati to the house. Great throw.
As you said, Lauren Boyle told us that Kobe's made of springs, plays with intense joy. He was a 3-time state champion with his high school track team, so he can run. And they need a guy with some size downfield to do some damage. 4-2 Breeze. Feels a little bit like this Empire O-line is settled in. We'll see if that's true. Losing Oliver Chartok on the opening point of the night, certainly not going to help their depth. That's a bad throw by Randolph, an errant lefty backhand. Merriman picks up at midfield, working with Greenberg and Tom.
Couldn't tell if Randolph was frustrated with himself or with Yacht, maybe expecting him to go to a different spot.
How aggressive will Lauren Boyle be with a timeout call? She did say she wants to keep the Empire O on the field playing defense. Grovic was going deep. Randolph was playing underneath him, but Merriman did not pull the trigger. Here's Greenberg. Another youngster out of William and Mary. Into a tight window. Aiden Downey on the doorstep. Throws his second assist of the night. Another Breeze break. Downey to Grovic.
No timeouts necessary for Lauren Boyle. And look, you can say that it's just little mistakes from New York. They've given it away. They've thrown it away 3 times now on this offensive line. But if you can't get it back, and twice they have not, does it really matter that much? This has been the problem for New York all season. And they're going to have to come up with some answers, and quick.
Early chemistry from Downey and Grovic is a very good sign for the DC Breeze.
Absolutely. I mean, we knew Downey was going to be coming into this team, and what a talent he is out of the University of Georgia. And I think if you're not someone who's following the college game that closely, you may not realize just how explosive he could be for this D-line. Incredible athlete.
So New York's offense has scored twice and been broken twice. And they forced Jack Williams to make a heroic catch on the Matt LeBar swing. Shapiro shoots it for Yacht again. battling with Edmonds for position, and Thomas Edmonds gets to the spot for the Breeze.
Great example of body positioning. The much smaller Edmonds able to get in front and keep Yacht from being able to get up and make a clean play.
Saw Thomas Owen, one of the Breeze assistants, roaming the sidelines. Thomas Edmonds hunting the block on Yacht. Minute 20 to play in this opening quarter. Oh, and Yacht easily intercepts it right on the doorstep. Ruschmeyer-Bailey dishes to Yacht just like that. It's a quick, dirty hold for New York off the Breeze turn.
Where would this New York team be tonight without Ben Yacht out there? He has 2 blocks.
0 points.
That's right. He has 2 blocks. He has 2 goals. He has an assist. He's a +5 with 130 yards, and we're not even out of the first quarter. And yet New York's down 2 breaks because the rest of the O-line is really struggling. What a play by Edmonds. But Yacht poaches into the lane, gets an easy takeaway, and then his second goal. And Ben Yacht, we were talking to the coaching staff, Anthony Nunez, yeah, he's riding the motorcycle. Anthony Nunez said he's not used to this, and he's trying to step up as a leader and trying to mentor the younger guys on this team and really take charge of this New York team as they try to fight back into playoff position.
It was an interesting conversation with Anthony Nunez and Matt Stevens about just how this team is feeling right now. And, I mean, he insists that they're not demoralized. I mean, yeah, that they're angry, but they still believe that they can win. They still are very confident in their roster. And yet, as the injuries pile up, Charlie, and Calvin Brown goes down on Wednesday, and Sam Jonas gets hurt last week before the game. Then we see Oliver, there's some seasons where the injury gods just don't believe in you. Gus Norbaum flips it to Wodach, who is open and connects with McDonald. Up the line for Jurek.
That's such a great throw from Rowan. Basically doesn't step back at all to the forehand side, just pivots his body and throws a quick flick to Jurek. So some creativity from Norbaum first. Wodach knows what to do. Find open hands, gets it to Rowan, and then look at this throw. From that backhand side, never steps back, and able to get that break off. Easy score for Jurek. DC O-line looking good.
13 seconds remain in the first quarter clock. Max Shepard on the field for his first O point of the night for New York in this end of quarter situation. And DC has all their young height athletes out there with Merriman getting ready to pull. End of quarters always loom large, especially with these two teams. "13 seconds for New York. Ruschmeyer-Bailey gets it to Williams with 10. Max Shepard back to Williams with 3. And Jack lets it rip. It floats over multiple defenders and then goes off Yacht's fingertips right on the goal line and lands incomplete.
After the first quarter, the score
DC just dodged a bullet.
New York Empire 3.
Gave shadows of what we saw in Minnesota championship weekend.
Yacht was worried about where his feet were, and he couldn't focus fully on the Frisbee.
And I think if he had caught it, he would have had a good chance to get those feet into the end zone. But a brutal first quarter, let's be honest, for the New York Empire. The DC O-line does not turn it over. New York's offense looks totally disjointed. They get broken multiple times. They don't score at the end of the quarter, and a lot of grim-looking faces, and we're only through one quarter here in DC.
Big quarter for Yacht, but it could have been even bigger if he had delivered at the buzzer. 1 down, 3 to go here on Friday Night Frisbee in Washington, D.C. It is a 6-3 lead for the Breeze here at Carlini Field. On the green stage, huge bid, gets the tie.
Great opportunity for the Germans, and they break with ease.
Throwing the full 80 yards to the field. Are you kidding me? An incredible catch. You are kidding me. Oh my God. Throw like a pro with a new Pro Ultimate Frisbee. Created with input from the sport's premier passers, the Pro Frisbee is specially designed to fly through the wind and maintain its edge. Experience the official Frisbee of the UFA and get yours at shopufa.com today. Very nice crowd on hand on what for the moment is a really pleasant evening. A little warm, but the Breeze fans enjoying the opening 12 minutes. They have a 3-goal lead. It feels like it could be even bigger with how they've played so far tonight.
I mean, we talk about New York needing to have a response tonight as a team after, coming into this game under 500. Well, now they have to have a response to this first quarter because they never took the disc from DC's offensive line. Their O-line struggled to complete simple passes at times, and they do not look on the same page. And, of course, losing Oliver Chartok to a hamstring injury does not help. So they're going to have to dig deep here on the road in their final road game of the season.
Teams around the league at very different points in their schedules. Tomorrow you have Atlanta playing their 9th game. And on Sunday, you have Chicago playing their 3rd game, and they just met in a double overtime classic last week in the Windy City. One of the games of the year, without a doubt. Chicago getting the 1-point win. Chicago, Boston, and Austin are the only 3 remaining undefeated teams. Of course, this New York franchise went undefeated and won the championship 3 times in 4 seasons, 2019, in 2022 and 2023. They would have had a 4-peat if they didn't lose in the finals in 2021 to the Flyers. Things have changed for New York. They're 3-4 right now. John Randolph playing offense with Jack Williams on the doorstep of the end zone. Swings it for Rushmeyer Bailey, and there's an assist for Saul. He leads the league in hockey assists coming into tonight. Doesn't typically throw it into the end zone as often, but he gets the assist to Cowan there and brings the Empire within 2.
Much better red zone offense than what we've seen so far from the O-line in this game for New York. They got the disc all the way swung back into the middle. So many more options from there. They're not trying to force something up the line or a difficult break throw. It's an easy open space break throw that time as Cowan gets in. A nice decision there from Randolph to send the disc over to Rushmeyer Bailey.
Cowan is one of the young guys on this New York team, Charlie. Relatively unknown out of Grinnell College, D3 Nationals appearances in back-to-back years, and was a Spirit captain in 2023 for the USA U24 mixed team. So he's played high-level ultimate, but it's guys like Cowan and Ben Simmons and Sam Alston and this young kind of core that Matt Stevens is hoping can step up as Edmonds rips it long. It's a foot race, and Jurek runs it down and doinks it with 2 hands on the goal line.
And that's the first giveaway, and you can't have a worse turnover than that. I think he was looking to see if he was going to be in the end zone, looked away from the disc a little too early before he made the catch.
Empire going to take their final timeout of the half right here as Shankalati didn't see anything he liked.
Timeout, New York Empire.
So New York will have no timeouts for the final 10 minutes of this second quarter. This becomes a really big break opportunity, their first break chance of the evening.
Well, yeah, and taking the timeout here, I get it. But on the other hand, the O-line's tired. They've been playing so many points and having to play a lot of defense, and just a stone-cold drop for the first turn of the game for the DC offense. Cole Jurek just a little too eager to finish the point. And so far, to start this second quarter, we kind of got the inverse of what we saw in the first, with DC making a weird error and New York's offense looking pretty sharp.
It's the same 7 that has been out there minus Oliver Chartok. Aiden Downey hanging out near the disc and now floats away, and the double team's coming from Tom. Tom races back over to Randolph, and Cowan gets a touch. Yacht guarded by Merriman. Underneath for Labar. Shapiro marked by Grovic with a stall count rising, gets the reset to Randolph, looking for the swing, and Shapiro gives it to him. Big layout bid, but coming up empty on the athletic play was Michael Wagner, and a couple throws later, Randolph to Yacht again, the first Empire break of the night. New York within 1.
That changes things a little bit,
Sure
doesn't it?
does.
You come out of the first quarter at 6-3. New York drops it at the end of the quarter. They've given up a couple of breaks. They're looking down in the dumps on the bench. And then just like this, Cole Jurek gift wraps a break for the Empire. And we're back to a 1-goal game.
I'm sure you remember when Ben Yacht won back-to-back MVPs, and then he switched to D-line, and Ryan Oscar won the MVP, and then Jeff Addott won the MVP, and it was just like, all right, which Empire player are they going to feature this year to win the MVP? We said if John Randolph got more of an opportunity to put up big numbers on offense, it could be him, and he's having a really solid start aside from that lefty. We apologize for the technical difficulties. The DC Breeze were able to hold 7-5 Breeze. Rushmeyer Bailey. Yacht. We got 7:15 to replay in this second quarter. DC a 7-5 lead on New York. Thanks for bearing with us as we work through the technical difficulties. John Randolph, double teamed. Randolph bids just shy of the goal line and flips it to Labar, and the Empire back within 1 again with 6:51 to go.
Goal for the New York Empire, scored by number.
Well, we're going to get a chance to look at both of the goals here. First DC's and then New York's to get back within 1. So here's DC getting into the end zone. They did have a turnover, but they were able to get it back and put the goal in, and then nice job by Randolph running that down. Didn't even have to leave his feet, and just a little dish to Labar. So New York's offense has looked a lot better here in the second quarter.
Obviously a really important game for both teams. Both coming off a loss last weekend, and the next game after tonight for each of these squads, a week from tomorrow. Same two teams, different place. Breeze and Empire will meet again. To the brick mark for the Breeze offense with Andrew Roy initiating. Gus Norbaum with him in the backfield. Tristan Yarder there defensively on Norbaum, and here's Wodash. Nissen working with Jurek. Tristan Yarder very close to a block. Those are two guys that both started in the league when they were just 18 years old. Made their debuts before they went to college, Yarder and Nissen. Norbaum chased by Ethan Lehman, the University of Massachusetts sophomore standout this past season. And McDonald with something of a no-look high stall shot right on target to Norbaum in the back corner of the end zone.
Rowan can always pull a rabbit out of a hat. It might be his greatest strength as an Ultimate player, especially as he's starting to have his athleticism come down off of the peak that he was at 4 or 5 years ago. But, there's nothing. He's got to come up with something, and snipes the blade to the back corner.
Rowan just turned 36 on Sunday.
Already 5 assists. Just halfway through the second quarter. Could have a huge night. New York's had no answer for him.
Well, he's shown a willingness to stretch the field with his throws, and that has helped open up a lot for the DC offense. Shapiro chased by Bergeron, gets it to Randolph, who initiates from downfield, marked by Greenberg. What's been the difference for the Empire offense, Charlie, as they've settled in your opinion?
Well, they've just been a little bit more patient and willing to hit the easy throw instead of trying to make the tougher one. And a little bit, it's just been better focus. Some of their turnovers early in that first quarter are just not completely locked into how they needed to step out and make a clean throw.
A.J. Merriman hunting the block, but Yacht able to make the outstretched catch with his right hand. Back to Cowan, no reset in the backfield. He floats it to Randolph.
Yeah, that doesn't go in the stat sheet, but Yacht just saved a turnover.
Labar squeezes it through to Williams. Crossfield shot right on the money. Jack saw the space. He led Shapiro there with the throw. New York has calibrated, and they're within one again.
Some of these assist throws tonight, special stuff. I mean, this is so nice from Williams. First, Yacht somehow gets that in front of Merriman, who was right there. And that is not an easy throw to get right. Has to come in with pace. And if you float it or you put a little too much on it, it's a quick turnover. But perfect spot for Williams. He's up to 174 throwing yards already.
Marquez Brownlee has officially set the all-time UFA record for most pulls in the history of the league. We had some power issues in the booth. They just lost the scoreboard for a second as well. Now the scoreboard over there is back, but it had gone black for a moment. There's an eerie feeling in the air tonight here in DC.
Who knows what's going to happen next?
It's Friday the 6th. Next Friday is Friday the 13th. What is going on? Minnesota at Madison next Friday at Bree Stevens Field as Monroe shoots it. Another one for Kobe Laveranis. In his first game in the UFA, he's got 2 goals in the half against the Empire, 9-7 Breeze.
Tyler Monroe, gorgeous shot here, stepping back across the grain and bombing this backhand. Perfect shape, and Laveranis is there again with some separation. That time Oliver Fay giving chase, and he couldn't keep up.
They affectionately call Kobe Bambi because he's young and a little awkward and still growing into his form.
Is Bambi fast like that?
All deer are fast, even though you can be a little awkward at times. And a nice shot from Monroe. Coming over here tonight, I was thinking, without Boxley, against this New York defense, like we saw Tyler Monroe at the end of the regular season last year have a great game up in Connecticut against New York. Just felt like this could be a Tyler Monroe type of day. It's been a Rowan McDonald day, but Monroe gets involved with his first assist there. Here's Rushmeyer Bailey, chased by Downey. Aiden Downey's DC debut. He's got a couple assists for Breeze breaks.
It's all handlers right now for New York.
DC Cutter's just hanging in the stack. Seemingly content to let the handlers cook, but Shapiro bobbles it out of bounds. And DC's going to take a quick timeout. They got 2 to use, and we only got 2.5 minutes left in the half. So the Breeze take a quick timeout after the Shapiro error and have a chance to reestablish a 3-goal lead.
It's been a tough game for Shapiro so far. A couple of bad turnovers. Dropping it along the sideline this time. Had a throwaway in the first quarter. It's not a routine catch, but it's when you got to make it this level.
Well, drops have been an issue for Everest, averaging right around 1 a game. And he's made some plays as well. He's got 2 goals so far tonight. But that certainly doesn't help the Empire cause.
And this is where the Empire have been pretty good tonight. I mean, they've given the ball up a bunch, but Yacht has come through a couple of times and gotten some takeaways. Pretty big point here with just a couple minutes left in this first half.
We got a foul on the mark. Shapiro staying out there on D.
Yeah, I think he's staying this double team here, even with the stall resetting. Nothing really changes, and it only compresses the field a little bit more.
Oh, Davis nearly had the block, but instead Jurek to Wodach. Jeff Wodach with another score.
They sold out to the strong side with the double team. It's basically trying to get a block right away, and if you don't, you see what happens. It was super easy for DC to flow all the way to the other side. There was no defense over there. Wodach got to be wondering, who's guarding me tonight?
No one so far.
That's right.
That was the chance for Davis, but the sellout enables the wide open goal for Wodach.
Cole Jurek, 4 scores already tonight.
Had to be hard for him, especially a championship weekend last year, to lose against his old team. He was a really good player for 3 years. I know the Winchell were really sad to lose him when he moved to DC. This is his 3rd year with the Breeze after he played 3 years for the Chill. Williams to Shepard, who gets an opportunity here on offense again. And a throw behind Williams. Yacht calling for the foul. And we will get the officials agreeing. And I think they're going to give Jack the disc? Well, Jack's walking with it, but the head referee is pointing that it should be Yacht's disc. I think that's correct. Now they're going to say it was a foul on the catch that Williams made. Clock still ticking toward a minute to play in the half. And Yacht to the back corner. And Williams with a dime.
A little bit of a bailout there for New York. I think there's contact. I think a foul is totally reasonable call. Real time, it could have gone uncalled. But Williams and Yacht had been playing together for a long time on this O-line.
Yacht's big first half continues. Directly involved in 5 of New York's 8 scores. He's also got a pair of blocks. At the halftime point on WatchUFA.tv, Montreal leads Philly 14-10 in a back and forth half there. That Royale team could get to 3-3 with a win tonight as they head to Toronto tomorrow in this crazy East Division.
Yeah, it would mean 3 losses at least for every team besides Boston in the East if Philly goes on to lose.
Well, you know, this game right here, let's just say Montreal wins tonight and then maybe Toronto gets the win tomorrow. On the second day of the Royals back-to-back, they have to travel. I mean, the Empire could lose this game and be in last place in the East, or they could win this game and basically be back in second place in the East.
That's how bunched up the standings are right now.
What New York does have going for it is the fact that they have their final 4 games of the season at home, where they haven't lost this year in the 1 game they've played. What's not going in favor of the Empire? Well, they've had a bunch of injuries, including Oliver Chartok going down in the first 0 point tonight. And they have struggled defensively to slow down offenses. And they've played a lot of good ones. We saw them against Oakland the opening night of the season. That Spiders offense has lived up to the resume they put forth that opening night. Montreal kind of had its way at times with New York's defense. Boston as well. And DC so far tonight, it's only been broken once. Down to 10 seconds here in this second quarter. Breeze looking for the last shot. McDonald, cross field, deflected by Randolph. A leaping D for John Randolph. And that'll take us to the half with the Breeze leading by 2.
Well, it's not a break, but it feels like one for New York to hold that DC offense back, get an opportunity to make a play, and then make one. And they're going to put 1 second on the clock here.
The disc went out of
New York.
bounds. And if the disc goes out of bounds, they got 1 second. So everybody's racing downfield. And Marquez is like, yeah, I get to have a throwaway.
There's not really any wind, so he doesn't get a tailwind to help push this. He's just going to have to try to sense something.
Andrew Roy might have gotten a piece of it on the release. See if A-Roy gets credit for a block. Well, now it's halftime for sure. 10-8 Breeze. You know, with the way this game started, it felt like it could get ugly for New York, and they're right in it.
That's been the story all season. They've been right in every game, Evan, and more often than not, they've come out on the losing side. I think it's going to be, can they dig deep and figure out a way to really, truly slow down this DC offense? I mean, their break, they got gifted. And there's only been one other meaningful DC turn before this one right at the end of the second quarter. And they're going to have to generate some pressure, or the Breeze are going to slowly pull away.
Teams split the 2 end of quarter situations. Jurek scored with 13 seconds left in the first, but then Yacht's goal with 1:05 remaining, the final goal of the second, as Randolph gets the block near the buzzer.
DC has not lost when they've turned the disc over under 20 times in a game, and only 5 turns in this first half has them sitting pretty with a 2-goal lead.
It's one of 5 games on this Friday night in the association. Grace Bulow is down on the field trying to get an interview.
I'm going to be interested to see if Sam Jonas there can make an impact in the second half. He's been the best defender for New York this season and been one of the most explosive defenders in the league. But not much to speak of in this first half.
All right, let's take it a break. When we come back, the Friday night six-pack, we'll crack it open and talk about what else is happening in the association here in Week 7 as we continue at the half on Friday Night Frisbee. It's now time to crack open another Friday night six-pack presented by Pabst Light, America's quality light beer, as we discuss 6 key storylines coming up this weekend in the Ultimate Frisbee Association. Number 1, got to start with the game of the week, Atlanta at Carolina, and this is going to be a big turning point game for both teams. It's the 3rd meeting of the season between the Hustle and the Flyers. Obviously, Atlanta won the first 2 meetings, but both of those were in the state of Georgia. These 2 teams have 2 more matchups in North Carolina, and after what happened last weekend, the South Division race got a little more interesting, with Atlanta losing twice in the Midwest, really close games at Minnesota and Chicago, and Carolina getting 2 road wins at Philly and Pittsburgh. If the Flyers can keep that momentum going, all of a sudden the South plot really thickens, because then Carolina's right back in it. Atlanta would have lost 3 in a row, and the battle for the top seed in the South gets really muddy. But if the Hustle can win this weekend, it would basically clinch a playoff spot, and it would also make things really tough for the Flyers. That's Saturday night, 7 p.m. on WatchUFA.tv. Number 2, how about the top 2 teams in the East Division getting set to square off in Boston? It's the Glory hosting the Phoenix. Boston begins the weekend as one of the 3 remaining undefeated teams in the league at 4-0. And, of course, Philly started 3-0, but now the Phoenix at 3-2, losing a close one to Carolina at home this past weekend. The Phoenix, obviously, with a Friday night game at Montreal before taking on Boston on the second day of a back-to-back. Every game in the East Division feels huge. Going to be really interesting to see what transpires tomorrow night in Boston. Number 3, how about the All-Canada Clash in Toronto? Another East Division showdown, the first meeting of the season between the Royale and the Rush. And look, coming into the season, we had high expectations for Toronto, and they lost their first 4 games, but finally got in the win column against New York this past Sunday. Montreal, I think, was a team that very few expected to be in the mix, but after home wins against New York and a really impressive performance against DC, you got to take the Royale seriously as well as a potential playoff contender. 2 big games for the Royale this weekend, Friday night against Philly, and then Saturday at Toronto. Number 4 in this week's 6-pack, another game I'm super excited about. Austin at San Diego. It is a huge game in the South Division race, in part because it's the only regular season meeting between the Soul and the Growlers. So tiebreakers very much up for grabs, and Austin trying to remain undefeated. And this will be the second day of a back-to-back for the Soul. And the Growlers have a tricky schedule coming up. Don't forget, they got 2 interdivisional games against their former West Division foe, the Oakland Spiders, coming up down the stretch of the season. So the Growlers really got to hold serve at home, especially if Carolina beats Atlanta. The South playoff race could get very, very tight with 4 teams battling for 3 spots. Number 5 in the 6-pack, the only Sunday game this week, and it's a good one. Madison at Chicago. Union 2-0 coming off the double overtime win against Atlanta. The Radicals are 3-1 coming off 2 dominant home wins over Pittsburgh and Indy respectively. And there's just something about this Madison-Chicago matchup that makes me think it could be a tight game. But can the Union get to 3-0? Can they follow up their emotional double OT win over Atlanta and stay perfect? Odds are in their favor, but don't discount the Radicals too. And number 6 in this week's 6-pack, opportunities for winless teams. Of course, last week we saw LA, Carolina, and Toronto all earn their first wins of the season. Could this be the weekend for the Detroit Mechanix and the Vegas Bighorns? Detroit is at home against 1-3 Indy. AlleyCats are struggling, and this is a game, if the Mechanix are thinking they can get 1 for sure, this is the one they had circled. We'll see if Detroit can get it. They got 1 win last year and 0 the many, many years before that. And then the Vegas Bighorns, their first year in the league, they lost a 1-goal game at home to Oregon, a game in which they had 2 more breaks than the Steel. So different story on the road. Oregon looking for their 3rd win, but maybe the Bighorns finally get their moment and get their first win. It would be a historic moment for the Vegas franchise if they could do it. Interesting storylines across the UFA here in Week 7. This has been another Friday Night 6-pack presented by Pabst Light, America's quality light beer. On the green stage, huge bid, gets the
It's a great opportunity for the Germans, and they break with ease.
throw it the full 80 yards to the field. Are you kidding me? And an incredible catch. You are kidding me. Oh my God! Throw like a pro with a new Pro Ultimate Frisbee. Created with input from the sport's premier passers, the Pro Frisbee is specially designed to fly through the wind and maintain its edge. Experience the official Frisbee of the UFA and get yours at shopufa.com today. Welcome back to DC, everybody. Second half moments away with a Breeze leading the Empire 10-8. We did not have Grace Bulow with Lauren Boyle, but Grace spent some time with Lauren and has an update from the Breeze sideline. Hey, Grace. I cannot hear her. Now,
Mic isn't on?
now we can hear you.
Is the mic on? Oh, yay, good. Okay, I've been having such great luck with this microphone all season. I'm here in D.C. where a demoralized New York Empire is fighting to stay relevant against the Breeze tonight. Got to catch up with Lauren. She's really, really proud of how her younger half of her squad is playing tonight. Aiden, Colby, everyone's been absolutely incredible. We're really, really excited to see how the DC Breeze plays in the second half, expecting a lot from their small ball because New York has been super huck heavy. It looks like we're about to start, so back to the booth.
Seconds away.
All righty. Third quarter about to begin.
Less than 10 seconds away.
DC started the game on offense with a hold that took over 2 minutes off the clock. We'll see how they fare here at the outset of the third.
Let's go, Breeze!
Certainly understand Boyle's perspective. You know, Loveranis, 2 goals. Downey, a pair of assists, including some big throws. No turns for Downey. These new players joining the team for the first time this season have made a real impact here in the first half.
Marquez Brownlee, now number 1 all-time in polls in UFA history. But other than the polls, Marquez has been pretty quiet for the Empire D-line.
Yeah, I mean, Jacques Nissen has been working him out a little bit in the backfield.
Here's Loveranis coming under. We haven't seen him have to throw very much tonight, but shows off the lefty forehand reset to Andrew Roy. Marquez Brownlee comes up with a block on Nissen.
Nissen claiming he caught it, but no whistle.
This could be a huge turning point for New York. Will Anthony Nunez and Matt Stevens trust this D-line to try and finish this break? Davis goes across the field to Jonas. Oliver Fay, former member of the Austin Soul, his first ever DC New York game. There's a different feel to this game. You felt it on the sidelines beforehand. Marquez and Antoine, no stranger to the rivalry. Davis crossfield hammer. Fay skies over Edmonds and flips it into the end zone. It's DC's O-line getting broken for the second time tonight. Axel Agami Contreras brings the Empire within 1.
Huge. And kind of a risky shot here from Davis, but saw there was a lot of space on that side. Trusted Fay to go up and make a play. 2-hand jam, and then it's just a flip into the end zone. So Axel Agami hauls it in. And the question is, was that a clean block from Marquez? I mean, you said his name. You said he hadn't run much defensively, and then boom, he comes up with a big play. But let's see. Nissen was saying that he had it first. Take a look on the replay, and it was close. Hard to tell from that angle if he squeezed that before Brownlee got there.
Certainly nothing about that angle that makes me think it's a bad call to give New York that block.
Yeah, I think a lot of times offensive players, if they touch the disc, they feel the disc touch their hand, they think it was a strip. A lot of times, it's not.
Right. Wodach completely unguarded again. Gains yards downfield for McDonald, who shoots it toward the poach. It's 2-on-1, and Nissen denied by Sam Alston, who picks up the Empire block, and New York could tie this thing up right here.
First bad decision we've seen from Rowan tonight. That time, putting it up on that crossfield shot and just not anticipating the defensive help coming off the back. That's not where you want to throw into.
McDonald smacks it out of Yacht's hands after he makes the catch. Frustration foul gives him free 10. DC's O-line gets broken the first 2 points to start the second half. That's a borderline disaster. They were only broken once in the first. Oh, goodness. Yacht just got drilled from behind by McDonald, but there's no whistle, and Nissen throws it to the end zone, and the officials are saying it's a DC score.
Wow. Well, here's what I think happened there. That contact came after the disc had gone past Yacht. It was already a turnover. But probably there should have been some kind of stoppage and penalty against DC for the contact that came after the turnover. And it should have been a 10-yard penalty because Yacht shouldn't be punished and left out of position defensively because he gets drilled there by McDonald. And you can see Yacht going, where is the whistle? I just got crushed.
Can we go even a second further back if we can before that sequence from a wider shot?
I think Rowan's saying, like, where I was going, like, you came into that space in a weird way because the throw was bad and you weren't going to be able to make a catch. Weird sequence.
Shepard back out there on offense for New York. He was really dynamic in the Empire's first game of the season for the Spiders, Charlie. You and I were out there in the Bay, and Shep was arguably their best player on offense that night. Hadn't done a whole lot on offense since that game, quite frankly, for New York.
Yeah, and they moved him to the D-line.
Williams underthrew it, and Yacht saves the day.
Oh, that's a big spike and a little words after the play, after the contact. And you can understand back-to-back points where Yacht feeling the physicality from DC.
Assist by number 11, Jack Williams.
And Yacht now up to a +8 in this game. 5th goal. Williams power position, no mark. Throws it to his big man, and certainly illegal contact. Little and one, and Yacht frustrated.
Ben Yacht's one of those guys that can play well frustrated.
No doubt about it. As long as he doesn't triple spike and get thrown out of the game and then brought back by the opposing coach.
That was wild. 2 years ago out in Salt Lake. Yeah, that was incredible. One of the wilder weekends we've had in the league. Of course, that was part of the Empire's run to their 3rd championship in 2023. The question I asked Adam Ruffner on the Swing Pass pod is, which teams in the East Division right now do you consider championship contenders? Could they rise into that conversation? Because obviously, you know, Boston's undefeated. Standings then go Philly, DC, New York, Montreal, Toronto. It's anyone's guess how it's going to end up 7 weeks from now. But the question isn't who's going to make the playoffs. It's who could make a run to a championship if they made the playoffs.
The way teams are playing right now, only Boston. The potential is there for both of these teams to get there.
Andrew Roy to Jeff Wodach. Nice find. 12-10.
I mean, we've seen good O points from both teams tonight. We've seen some athleticism on display. We've seen the throwing from both teams look really impressive. This one's a beaut, again, to Wodach with separation.
Do you think New York's going to guard Jeff Wodach ever tonight?
I think they're trying to get away with letting him run around a little bit and maybe look for poaching spots, but they keep getting burned. And it's also just savvy veteran, knows the timing, knows when to cut. Because in a foot race, Antoine Davis is not losing to Jeff Wodach. But when Wodach gets to make the decision about when he's going, he can create that airspace.
Jeff Wodach has been a member of the Breeze every season since 2016. LeBar initiates from the front of the stack and then gets it to Shepard in the middle. LeBar launching for Williams, testing the hamstring. Jack looks okay. It's a nice shot from LeBar.
Beauty. And one of the best O points of the game for New York. I mean, they come out of the vert stack, soft break out into the open break side lane, and then they get everything flowing from there. Shepard gets open in isolation, bounces to LeBar, and then perfect timing on the deep cut from Williams. And New York looks better when Jack is operating downfield. He doesn't have to be a deep cutter all the time, but just having him sit back and try to be a static handler is not the right fit for his game. Really nice point there for New York.
Yeah, Empire hanging around largely due to their stars, Williams and Yacht. And the pressure's on this DC offense to try and stay perfect or pretty close to it. They've been broken twice so far tonight, nearly back-to-back points at the start of the half, but they dodged that bullet. So Nissen guarded by Sachdeva. Being forced backhand, floats it over the top to Edmonds. Here's Nissen. Jacques Nissen cooking right now, and now Rowan gets involved and throws the assist to Tyler Monroe.
Gorgeous flow from DC. Back across the field and all the way. Just everyone late the whole time, never able to seal the edge. And DC is so good at keeping the flow going. Once they've got it, they can get it onto the open side, they get it onto the break side. And if you don't figure out a way to get them to turn back the other way, they will just go all the way up that sideline. Tyler Monroe having a nice night.
Breeze back up by 2. Midway through this third quarter. First of 2 meetings between these teams. They'll see each other again a week from tomorrow night in New York.
So split stack this time for New York.
Williams and Yacht carrying a heavy load for the Empire offense tonight. Shepard. Williams makes himself free. And looks deep to Shepard. Oh, he dropped it. Jasper Tom was right there defensively, but I think Shepard just lost it.
A little bit of a short arm throw there from Williams. He puts more underneath that. I think it's an easy score. Shepard's still got to make that play, but Tom did well to make some pressure on the catch.
Opportunity for Jace Dean and the DCD line. It's a hanger. Grovic and Williams and Yacht. And Grovic skies over Williams. And he's called for a foul. And he can't believe it. And he's begging for an integrity call.
Let's take a look. This just looks like a straight up roof job from Grovic. Up over the top, a little bit of contact in the back, but that's not a foul in the UFA.
New York's got the disc. Williams initiates to Shapiro. One of the highlights of Miles Grovic's life. Absolutely ripped away from him by the official in the white hat. Wow.
I mean, he put him on a poster, and then they put the poster in the shredder, Evan.
I'm stunned right now. So is this DC crowd. Ruschmeyer-Bailey penalized 10 yards. Clock still ticking as we go under 4 minutes to play in the third. Randolph thought about the deep shot for LeBar, goes to Shapiro under, and now LeBar continues the under. Shapiro going deep. LeBar to the back corner of the end zone. Beautiful shot. Matt LeBar finding his rhythm. Miles Grovic with the highlight of the point, but he had it ripped away. And it's a one-goal game again. Break it down for us, Charlie.
Well, let's take a look first at New York going the other way. This is from earlier. Shepard can't make the play and then coming the other direction. Grovic versus Williams. And let's see it again. I mean, I don't know how you make a cleaner play. He goes straight up. And that should have been the highlight, #1 SportsCenter top 10 moment of the weekend. And instead, it's a turnover. And New York goes the other way as LeBar dials up another dime.
Stunning stuff. Grovic unable to get the call, but Jurek does. It's a foul on Davis. A lot of chatter in the backfield between Aroy and Axel Agami Contreras right now. Jurek to McDonald to the end zone for time on.
A little extra sauce from Tyler Monroe after that goal. DC feeling like they've gotten cheated out of one here in this third quarter.
And let's not forget that Yacht got drilled and they didn't call it, so it goes both ways, and just the intensity is rising.
Yeah, but that Yacht play, maybe that's a 10-yard penalty.
Sure.
But it's DC's disc. I don't think it really changes the complexion of the game.
As you said, it prevented him from playing defense.
Yes, certainly. But taking that Grovic play off the board, I mean, that's just a terrible call from the refs. I'm sorry to say it, but that is the kind of play we want to see at this level. It's squeaky clean, too.
Funny thing is, if Calvin Brown hadn't gotten hurt on Wednesday, Jack Williams would be out there on the D-line. Meanwhile, it's a beautiful poach block from Aiden Downey in the DC Breeze.
Yeah, I think Downey started to feel where the New York offense wanted to go on its pull plays, and Shapiro just did not see it at all. Another turnover for Everest. Timeout, DC, chance to go back up by 3, tie their largest lead of this game. And remember, it was almost a tie game at the beginning of this quarter.
That's right.
DC's D-line was on the brink of giving up back-to-back breaks, and now they've got a chance to create a little separation once again. And just heads-up defensive play from Downey, who continues to put his fingerprints on this game.
Celebrated the timeout call with Isaac Lee. And we saw Tobias Brooks last week for the Colorado Summit make such an impact coming off of college nationals. When you're playing on a D-line, it's a little bit tougher to put up the type of big, lofty numbers that Toby put up with more throwing yards than we've seen anybody have in the league all season. But Aiden Downey has been arguably just as big of an addition for the Breeze D-line. Just the way he's managing them out there. Nissen initiates to Jurek out of the timeout call, back to Norbaum. Rowan makes a leaping catch, tumbles into a Lottie. They're going to call it on New York. We're going to get an integrity call, and I'm not surprised because Rowan kind of leapt into a Lottie, and I think that's the right choice by Rowan. That's not much on Shank. So it's going to be Rowan's disc, integrity call, same spot, clock ticking, under 2 minutes to play in the third. Floater to Nissen with plenty of space. Tight window throw for Norbaum. 6 assists already from McDonald tonight. He won't look for a 7th there. Pretty good red zone defense here from New York. This would be a heck of a stand, Charlie, if they could get a turn. But DC is known for its red zone efficiency. Generally a very patient team, able to create possessions. McDonald not in. They'll get his 7th assist of the night. The culmination of a long red zone possession. And it's Cole Jurek with the DC score.
No Boxley tonight for this DC offense, and it hasn't been a big problem for them. I mean, you can think this is why what we're seeing tonight from DC's offense, this is why you can see the potential for this DC team to make the playoffs, to go back to championship weekend potentially, represent the East, and maybe chase championship, because with a full-strength roster, they could be very tough. And we're seeing maybe some signs of new players who are going to slot into the lineup for the whole season. I mean, Aiden Downey's going to be a starter on the D-line, no question, moving forward. But even some of these other guys we're going to see get some run potentially. Loveranis has been solid for them.
He has, and I just short-shifted McDonald. That was his 8th assist of the night now. And we get a whistle on the pull, which usually means someone was offsides. Clock stopped for the moment with 1:02 remaining. The Breeze leading by 3. New York will start the fourth quarter on offense, receiving the pull to begin the final period. Randolph was open. Yacht's going. And the throw was beautifully well read and nearly a collision. But Yacht comes down with it. Greenberg lurking. I want to see this replay again.
Yeah, this looked like it could be really bad. I think from our angle, it looked worse than it actually was. Greenberg, I think, knew that he couldn't go all the way hard to the disc there without creating an illegal contact. And Yacht still barking after another score for him. He leads this game in plus-minus at a +9. 6 goals, assists, 2 blocks, and 345 yards with no turns.
There was a game of the week many years back when it was Jonathan Nethercutt for the Flyers and Rowan McDonald for the Breeze going back and forth. This feels a little bit like that, but it's Rowan and Yacht, 2 of the greats.
Yeah, and you know, who've been great in this league for a long time. And Yacht getting it done downfield. And I mean, it basically, if they see Yacht down there, it's just like put it up.
Yeah.
And that's cost him a couple of turnovers at times when he got double teamed in the deep space. But for the most part, he's making those plays in one-on-one situations.
Labar's had a lot of good throws tonight. That last one was not a great throw. Yacht kind of bailed him out.
Yeah, I mean, but I think he threw it to a space where he knew Yacht would be able to get there, and Yacht using his length to make a catch without even having to lay out.
Final minute of this third quarter. It's a huge defensive possession here for New York. They'll receive, as I said, to start the fourth.
Remember, they got the stop at the end of the first quarter that felt a little bit like a break, or I guess the end of the first half.
Yep, the end of the first half, the Randolph block.
And so if they can keep them in this slow, methodical pace and try to force them to take a tough shot again, being within 2 is a big difference.
Oh, and beautiful downfield scuba from Monroe to Edmonds. Sets up Roy with 14 seconds. The stadium scoreboard clock has stopped, and then it just clicked all the way to 10. And now it's down to 8, and Monroe shoots it. Back corner of the end zone. There's a crowd there, and it's an incredible, insane, unbelievable catch by Thomas Edmonds. I don't believe what I just saw. Unreal.
double coverage, time running down. Time on just sends it up there on a prayer. He checks the line and goes up over the back.
And he was out of bounds.
I don't know. Did he get that first foot in before he landed OB with his left foot? We get to see it again because unclear if he got that foot down with a toe tap before he landed out of bounds. I mean, there was a referee standing right on the back line. So let's take another look. Look at his right foot as this disc comes in. I think he gets away with one kind of launching off the back here of Randolph. So he kind of uses Randolph as leverage to go up here with his left hand. Now watch the right foot. Does it come down early?
It's out of
bounds. And a bad call by the referees. That wasn't even that close. He was a full foot out of bounds. And a huge break for DC.
Shepard slings it the length of the field, or about 3/4 of the way, and it's going to be the end of the third quarter. And man, I mean, DC had one taken away with Grovic, but they got a gift right there. Here's another angle of this shot to Edmonds.
I mean, not only was it an offensive foul for going up and over the back on Randolph, but he was clearly out of bounds. And you just got to get this call right if you're standing on that back line. I mean, an amazing athletic play, obviously, but clearly.
I mean, there are a lot of feet there, and like one of the feet landed in, but it wasn't Thomas Edmonds' foot. Wow. The stats through 3 show the Breeze with 4 breaks, the Empire with 2. It's a low turnover affair, as it often is with these two great franchises. New York will be on offense to start the 4th when we come back here on Friday Night Frisbee. Well, it looked like the two teams are ready to pull to start the 4th, and they went to the wrong sides of the field. So the official's going to get this sorted out. Not easy to be an official in the UFA, Charlie.
There's a lot going on.
Tough call for the Empire at the end of the 3rd. Edmonds made a crazy catch, but there's a reason I said I didn't believe what I just saw, because I didn't think it was possible for him to make that catch. All righty. This feels like a really important O-line possession to start these final 12 minutes for New York. I mean, we saw them come back from 4 goals down against Boston, but that was an extraordinary comeback / glory 4th quarter collapse. By the way, Montreal absolutely waxing Philly right now, 24-14. Roy Allen in the midst of a historic offensive night. Montreal is going to be a 3-3 Frisbee squad pretty soon. They got Toronto on the road tomorrow. Philly's at Boston tomorrow. Phoenix, after the 3-0 start, could fall below 500 at 3-4 unless they upset the Glory and hand Boston their first loss. New York's got 4 losses already. DC's got 3. A lot of tough games for all of these East Division teams the rest of the way. It's impossible to predict how it's going to unfold. High stall hammer, Shepard to the far side of the field. Space, and Cowan can't bring it in.
Yeah, the resets weren't there. Kind of put Shepard in a bad spot. He tried to get into an open space and just put a little too much on it. Great defense from DC. Really separated the handlers and the cutters.
Here's Jace Dean to A.J. Merriman, former Defensive Player of the Year in this league. Downey in his DC debut having a nice night. Greenberg with that long reach swings it to the middle, and then Dean continues downfield for Wagner. It has been impressive, all these Breeze new guys tonight fitting in as seamlessly as they have. And how about that throw? Ben Greenberg to Aiden Downey. Greenberg in his 3rd ever game in the league. Downey in his first game with this franchise to break to start the 4th and give the Breeze their largest lead of the night.
I think you're seeing on this point the absence of Oliver Chartok. He's somebody who kind of helps connect the layers of their offensive line and offer those bailout cuts when they need them at stall 5. And ultimately, Shepard doesn't have anywhere to go with it. And this DC D-line looks reinvigorated with Downey out there.
And part of that is the personality that Aiden Downey brings to every team he's on. I mean, he's a quirky dude, but he's got a great positive energy about him. He's fun. He's also crazy talented. He can make insane plays. He's been very smart throughout his career and picking other teams apart. And yeah, Charlie, I mean, Tobias Brooks has company in terms of the biggest addition after the college season conversation, because Downey has been fantastic. Ten minutes to go for the Empire, trailing by 4. Now, they were down by this exact score. It was 17-13 with about 6.5 minutes to go about a month ago in Boston.
There's nobody there downfield. There's no cuts. Back to the reset. Once again, no one is attacking the space. Who's on stage? There we go.
Shapiro. A couple bumps on that play. A little surprised we didn't get a whistle. Shapiro to Williams. He's had enough of this swinging business. Shapiro in the end zone. Rips it down for New York. That's Mount Everest.
Matt Stevens likes what he sees. Some head taps from Brownlee. And this is what Calvin Brown tends to bring to this O-line, is that willingness to take these tough shots. And Williams has been awesome in this role tonight. A couple of big hucks. And they're having a hard time hitting the unders, and DC's really just pressuring them to try to take those away shots.
Big grab for Shapiro. Williams is going to have to be a little bit more willing to take some of those shots. Another pull on the historic night for Marquez.
I mean, it's 380 throwing yards tonight for Jack Williams. Just one turnover.
second most throwing yards in the game behind Ruschmeyer-Bailey. Tends to pick him up by getting a lot of touches and gaining a lot of small positive chunks. Calvin Brown got hurt on Wednesday. Oliver Chartok got hurt the second point of the game, the first O point for the Empire. DC's offense has still only been broken twice. McDonald looking deep again. Monroe had steps. He's shy of the end zone, but he'll take the crossfield hammer to a wide open Cole Jurek. Not another assist for McDonald, but his deep throw opened that whole thing up. Empire defense was baiting it, and Rowan said, I'll take it.
Yeah, you'll happily take the hockey assist here. Nice low driving backhand. Gets it down there in a hurry and in transition. The hammer, a good choice because it slows down at the end of its flight and just sits. So Monroe able to get another assist. 2 assists on the night, a pair of goals. Make it his 3rd assist right there. And with a 4-goal deficit, New York's going to have to find some answers, and quick.
The Breeze now 5 for 6 on their hucks tonight, Charlie. They've picked their spots, and they've got a higher huck completion rate than any other game they've played so far this year.
Yeah, they came in hitting under half of their hucks. Bottom 5 in the league.
And of course, New York knew that and wanted to try to bait them, and DC's been wise about the shots they've taken. Pressure provided there from Marcus Lee. Got right back up and sprinted with Ruschmeyer-Bailey. There's a lot of, so you want to be a defender in the UFA. Like, welcome to the league. Go chase a guy around for 4 quarters. You may not touch the disc all night. No one might know your name. But those, oh, we got a stall called. Jacob Cowan held onto it for too long. Chance for DC to really turn out the lights. Foul call, but the continuation completion negated the whistle.
Felt like a quick whistle on the stall.
Greenberg lets it rip. A.J. Merriman all alone. He's shy of the goal line. And Merriman dumps it back 30 yards and then calls for it again. Right back to Greenberg. New York looks done, Charlie. Lackluster defensive recovery from the Empire. You're seeing hands on knees. You're seeing body language that says this is over. Greenberg gives the Breeze a 5-score lead with 6:23 to go.
New York staring at a 3-5 record coming out of tonight with a basically must-win game next weekend against this same Breeze team up in New York. And they can make all the excuses they want about injuries, and they're legitimate. You know, you're missing 2 normal key O-line starters tonight. But the defense hasn't been there, and it's going to have to step up in a big way if they want to win next week. And you don't want to quite say keep their playoff hopes alive, because if they do lose back-to-back games and go to 3-6, it's possible 6-6 will still be good enough if they win out, but it's asking a lot.
How you doing, man?
And DC just looks like they're finally finding their stride, and they too, by the way, are missing a great player from their O-line tonight, in Christian Boxley.
And they're not going to have him next week at New York either.
That's right.
But they've got other guys. I mean, this is a deeper DC squad. They definitely get the check mark over in New York in that department right now. Williams launching a prayer for Randolph. Miles Grovick says, give me that.
Well, the dangerous thing here for New York is that you can't just give up, because the tiebreaker, if you do win next weekend, could end up being the cumulative score in the matchup. So if you go out here and you give up a couple more breaks at the end of this game and lose by 7,
and then you win by 4 next week.
Too bad. You lose the tiebreaker, and it just makes the path that much harder.
That's a great point. I'm sure it's not something that Matt Stevens and Anthony Nunez are thinking about right now, but you're absolutely right.
I mean, I think the coaching staff, maybe the players aren't thinking about it, but the coaching staff needs to be thinking about it.
LeBar just came off the field for an injury. Tristan Yarder replaced him.
I will say, if DC plays like this the rest of the season, they're not going to finish 6-6.
DC needs to invite me to every one of their games, because I was at their game at Carolina and they looked pristine, and tonight they've been really, really good too. The DC squad that I have witnessed in person this year looks like a championship contender.
There is not even a breath of wind right now, and that is also very much a positive for DC.
Marcus Lee sending it to Miles Grovic. He'll slide and score, and it's Micah Wagner who has the assist. Wagner to Grovic. Breeze by 6. That should just about do it for the Empire tonight.
Micah Wagner, welcome to the league. What a dime. The under-20 U.S. national team selection in 2024 sends a bomb to Grovic, who's also been on Team USA.
These kids are all right for the DC Breeze.
Oh, yeah. Great. That's a really smart play there. He could lay out. He could try to make a lunging catch. The safest choice there is to slide and make that clap catch.
DC now 7 of 8 on their hucks. And the D-line 7 for 10 on their break chances.
Yeah, just 8 turnovers total on the game for the team. I mean, this has been a complete performance tonight. New York simply not getting pressure. Remember, one of those breaks came off of a stone-cold Jurek drop in the first half. Completely unforced error.
Feels like New York took a timeout. You can understand why. Empire scored to make it 17-14 with 9:09 to play. Last 4 minutes, a hold and a couple breaks for the Breeze. We've said it many times, DC heads to New York next week. After that, they're home for Montreal. They have a home-and-home with Boston. At Boston on July 6th, they host the Glory 6 days later. And then DC closes the season with the team they started against. They play at Philly. And remember, the Phoenix came here to Carlini and beat them in a really tight shocker of a game opening weekend of the season.
A couple years ago, that sounds like kind of a soft schedule to close out the season, and now you're thinking, wow, it's going to be tough for them to win half those games.
Take a look at Montreal's stats tonight. They've got 27 goals and 8 turnovers. Finally, New York gets off the schneid, and it's Sam Jonas in the end zone. 5-goal game with 4:37 to play.
There's plenty of good moments for the O-line tonight for New York. But too many chemistry issues, just weird plays, frustration, even from very early in this game. Our players and coaches would like to congratulate you, the best fans in pro ultimate. It's stunning to watch this New York Empire dynasty feel like we're seeing it kind of crumble in front of our eyes.
Especially on a night where Yacht has been really, really good.
Yeah.
Just hasn't gotten enough help. Like the Montreal Royale, by the way, DC only has 8 turnovers in the game to offset their 20 scores. Gus Norbaum in the backfield working with A-Roy. Finally finding a seam. Roy connects with McDonald, who continues downfield for Jurek. He's got a cutter going deep. He fakes the deep shot for Laveranis. And now it's Laveranis from Wodach. Nice and easy. DC's offense is clicking tonight.
The DC is going to take over second place in this East Division tonight, while New York is going to drop to 5th. And they're going to have they have the most losses in the East now. After they fall tonight, they're going to have 5 losses. And they're going to have to pray that they can protect their house back in New York as they close their season at home.
Well, it's a 6-goal game right now. We could debate what it means to be in a close game, but, you know, like the Empire lost their season opener by 5 against the Spiders. That was a close game late. So let's say 5 goals or less is close. From 2019 to 2023, when New York was in the midst of a 61-4 stretch, they went 37-3 in games decided by 5 scores or less. Since the start of last year, Charlie, they're 7-9 in close games. And whether tonight becomes a loss in the 5 goals or less department remains to be seen. New York's not I mean, this is arguably as bad as we've seen New York get, quote, blown out in this iteration of the team. End zone, Downey and Williams. And it's off Jack's fingertips and incomplete.
Feels like the story of the night right there for New York.
Breeze, a couple passes away from making sure that this isn't a, quote, close game. It was a 2-goal game late in the third. Timeout for DC. Of course, that Thomas Edmonds buzzer beater at the end of the third quarter looms really large. That made it a 3-goal game. And then DC broke to start the fourth. And it has been the Breeze off to the races from there.
Ready? If you think it's 7:32.
Well, Charlie, there's a lot of good games this weekend in the UFA, but you can't miss the next chapter between Atlanta and Carolina. That's the game of the week, 7 o'clock. Atlanta coming off 2 losses. Carolina coming off 2 wins. The Flyers lost both meetings in Atlanta, but now the stage shifts to the Old North State. Do the Flyers have enough against the hustle?
Yeah, the Carolina's desperate. I mean, they need this win more than Atlanta needs it, that's for sure. But Atlanta wants to bury this Carolina team before they have to try to see them again in the postseason. You know the hustle are not interested in having to deal with that Flyers team, the thorn in their side in the South.
Cole Jurek blew a tire, and Antoine Davis might have punctured it, and the foul is called. Next Friday, we'll be in Madison for the Wind Chill and the Radicals at the site of 2025 UFA Championship Weekend. I always get excited to go to Madison. It's always an amazing place to watch an Ultimate Frisbee game.
We might be in the nation's capital, but Madison is the capital city of Ultimate and deserves the title.
Gonna get some cheese curds next weekend.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. DC's offense has not been perfect, but they have been very, very good. Even without Christian Boxley tonight, Charlie. They've played safe, they've played smart, and they've also taken the deep space when New York's given it to them, to the tune of going 7 of 8 on their hucks. A lot of touches for Nissen, Roy, as usual. Nissen's 31 for 32. Roy's 40 for 40. And DC is a team north of 97% completion rate. That's going to win you a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even really talked much about A-Roy, but he's doing the thing that he's paid to do, which is go out there, don't turn it over, keep the disc moving, and make this offense work. And it's been the little things tonight for DC. Sure, we've seen some highlight throws from Rowan McDonald, but this offense looks like it's back to its roots.
You see New York grinding, trying to make something happen. Antoine Davis throwing his body around, some contact downfield. Alston apologizes to Edmonds. Good spirit there, but despite New York's late effort, I mean, this is all for naught because the DC Breeze are about to be 4-3. And Thomas Edmonds has the assist to Cole Jurek, who's in the end zone again for the Breeze. Goal number 6 of the night for Cole.
Yeah, Jurek over 350 yards of offense tonight. I mean, you can pick anybody on the O-line. They're having a good game because they're all contributing.
Charlie, the last time New York lost a game by more than 5 goals, do you remember what it was? Remember the 2018 end of regular season game, right when Worlds was starting, Club Worlds in 2018. I literally flew from DC to Worlds after the Breeze dominated the Empire 29-19. Now, New York won a day later at Philly to clinch a playoff spot. And then I flew straight from that Revolver Colony game at the wall-to-wall soccer complex back to DC, and the Empire dynasty began in the downpour. With a win against the Breeze. So
plenty of players on these rosters remember that game.
New York has responded to big losses against DC in the past, and they'll get a chance to do it next weekend. Ben Yacht firing deep. Axel Agami Contreras waiting for it. And it's Michael Wagner out leaping him to the plastic in the back corner of the end zone. DC had 36 turnovers in that playoff thunderstorm. That game, neither team scored in the fourth quarter. There were no goals in the final 12 minutes.
I remember watching that game. It was, I mean, that's one of the worst weather games I've ever seen in my life.
It was the same day as the Revolver Colony game.
They shouldn't have let them play. It was that bad. That's why I did not realize that it was the same day as those World's finals.
It's still a miracle that that Cincinnati to DC flight landed, because there were storms in the area. And there were so many flights that were canceled that day. All right, final throw of the night here in DC. Bergeron floats it to the end zone, and it's a diving attempt, and it's ruled a goal. How about that to finish the night for the Breeze? This will go in the book as an 8-goal win. 23-15. I wasn't sure if this was caught, but Michael Wagner's going to get credit for it off the deflection.
It's bouncing, and we can't see.
We cannot tell.
So refs liked it. Wagner thought he had it. And what a way to close out with bookends to dominate this New York team by 8 goals. I mean, we talk about history book stuff. We haven't seen the Breeze beat the Empire by a margin like this
since the week before the downpour game.
There it is.
So it's a reminder that things can change quickly, but this was a convincing win for the Breeze, and how they did it with every single young guy making a play, whether it was Loveranis on O, or Wagner, or Greenberg, or Aiden Downey on D.
Yeah, I mean, they got contributions from everyone on the roster. The young guy stepped up on that D-line. Downey was as good as advertised. And New York, I think, just never recovered from Chartok going down with the hamstring in the very first O point of the game. And with him out and Calvin Brown out, they just didn't have the firepower out there, even as good of a yacht game as we saw. And it wasn't even that horrible of a performance from New York. In the end of the day, 16 turnovers isn't disastrous, but when your opponent only has 8 turns and you lose the end of quarter situations, it's just too much to overcome.
And it speaks to the imbalance of New York's roster right now, that the top 4 individual yardage leaders in the game were Empire. Williams, Ruschmeyer, Bailey, Labar, and Randolph, the 4 guys that shoot up the most yards for either team. But DC much more balanced, much more spread out. And you get the honor, Charlie, of bestowing the Pabst Light Player of the Game. And, I mean, I think your candidates are Rowan McDonald or Cole Jurek or Aiden Downey or the wild card of your choice.
Well, as good of a game as Downey had on the D-line, I think the story was going to be about the DC offense tonight. And it was a throwback game for Rowan McDonald, who was pulling all kinds of tricks out of his bag. 8 assists, a goal, a block, just 2 turnovers. And we could talk about Cole Jurek, too. I mean, 350-plus yards, 6 goals and an assist, and no turns. I mean, pick a guy on the O-line. They were cooking tonight.
How did your opinion about this DC Breeze, particularly their ceiling to battle for a championship in 2025, change tonight?
Well, to be honest, I want to see them on the road in New York. I want to see them against a full-strength Boston lineup and a full-strength New York lineup, but I feel a lot more confident that they could make another run after what we saw tonight, no question.
And the Empire have a week and a day to regroup and
try to get healthy.
A season-defining last stand, perhaps. And, of course, we got on Friday Night Frisbee a week later against Toronto.
I mean, listen, for New York, no guarantee you're going to have Calvin Brown back in a week's time.
No.
With a concussion.
Oliver Chartok with a hamstring, too.
You're almost probably not going to have him if you had to assume right now. So you're going to have to come up with some answers, and I don't know exactly what that is. That's the tough part. I was thinking maybe we were going to see a little bit of Marquez Brownlee on the offensive line tonight. He's at the all-time pulling record and, had some good moments, but hasn't been as effective as you'd like a player of his caliber to be because the D-line simply isn't getting enough takeaways.
If the season ended right now, Montreal is your 3rd seed in the East Division. Nobody outside of Jean-Lévis Champagne's children had that before the season.
Yeah, I think we underrated the Royale coming into the season because they lost Toby DeCrona and everybody just said, well, they're just going to be the same old Montreal then. They're going back to the old days. But no, they're still a really talented team. They protected their home turf. And, I mean, I still don't know what's going to happen in the East. I don't think DC playing great tonight tells us that they're going to play great every week. They've been very inconsistent. And no Boxley next week on the road in New York. It's a completely different ball game, playing somebody on the road. So DC, though, maybe has a chance to bury the New York dynasty once and for all with a win next Friday.
Will it be the end of the Empire? That's the game of the week in Week 8. UFA game of the week tomorrow. The Atlanta Hustle and the Carolina Flyers, where the Hustle could basically clinch a playoff spot with a road win at Carolina. The Flyers could make things very interesting in the South. Also tomorrow on Watch UFA TV, Charlie, Austin at San Diego. Can the Souls stay undefeated through Southern California this weekend, taking on the Aviators and the Growlers?
It's going to be an incredible weekend. Make sure you grab yourself a Watch UFA TV subscription if you don't already have one, and lock in for the action.
And this is cool. This is part of the sport that you really like. The Empire appreciating the fans that came to support the home team, even in defeat. It can't be easy to go through the high five line after a loss when you got bludgeoned down the stretch. DC outscored New York 7-2 in the 4th, and they win this one going away. 23-15 is your final score tonight. The DC Breeze improved to 4-3. The Empire fall to a shocking 3-5. New York has 4 games left. They are all at home.
Foul, Evan. That was a foul. I saw it.
No, it still wasn't a foul. You had it right the first time, and yet...
This was in, Evan. It was in.
Well, thankfully, I think it's safe to say the refs did not determine the outcome of the game tonight.
No question about it.
Breeze take it 23-15. Enjoy the rest of Week 7 across the Ultimate Frisbee Association, and we'll see you next week from Madison. Windchill, the reigning champs, head to Breeze Stevens Field, site of 2025 Championship Weekend. Great night for the Breeze here in D.C. Hope you enjoyed it, and we thank you for being with us. For Charlie Eisenhood, Grace Bulow, and our entire production crew here in D.C., I'm Evan Lepler saying good night, and thanks for watching Friday Night Frisbee.